I was talking to an OG and he was telling me about how his generation is far greater than our generation. And it was a civil conversation that we was having, but he was telling me that his generation that he grew up in had way better morals, and they carried themselves different. And all of this may be true, but he looked at it as if his generation was innately more intelligent, smarter, more focused, and all these different things than the current generation, in that it was just God had just gave this generation bad luck and made us all ignorant or something. But I was explaining to him that if you look at farming and a farmer, when the farmer plants a seed and he waits and sees what type of crops is produced, and he uses the same seeds consistently over every season, and he uses the same seeds every year in and year out, and this year his crop is just horrible and it's not what it usually is, the last thing he's gonna blame is the seed itself. He'll look at the weather, he'll look at the soil, he'll look at all these different climate changes. You know, if it was intense rain, the last thing he's gonna do is look at the seed and blame the seed for the bad crop. But the first thing we do is look at the generation. The first thing we do is look at the seed and say, oh, I guess we just got a bad crop this generation. No, it ain't got nothing to do with the crop. Who is determining our climate? Who is determining our social climate? Who determined all those things? Who is making up the soil that this new generation has to grow up in? You know, who is making up their environment? Who dictates their environment? That's something you got to think about. You know, we can't just look at them as if they created their own environment. We're bypassing a lot of history that happened. And history is important. We're bypassing a lot of different things from the single parent households, you know, and all these different things, the lack of men in the community. These things have an effect on this generation. And that is why we're acting out like we're acting out. It has nothing to do with, oh, he was telling me, oh, I used to walk miles to school and we used to do these different things and we were more determined than you guys were. Maybe. But if you want me to believe that if another generation was brought up in our current environment with social media or whatever it may be, that another generation would be vastly more successful because they're just superhuman. There is no superhuman. We're all human beings. We're all placed in the environment. We all adapt to our environment. Yeah, the genes are skinnier nowadays. We just adapted to the environment. It is what it is. We need to stop blaming ourselves and doing this whole generational wars and, you know, old versus young. It has nothing to do with that. We just need to, it is what it is. We're in the current climate that it is. You know, the generation is like it is. My generation is like it is. Instead of complaining about it, go in there and let's change it. Let's talk, you know, let's talk it out. Let's have conversations. Because all this blaming and he did this and I would do this, it's not solving anything.